like to thank each and every one of you for your practice, whether you've been practicing for many years or if today is the first day you have appeared at the Houston Zen Center and are considering practice. I thank you for your consideration of practice. I want to especially thank the members of the practice period that we are smack dab in the middle of at this point. We've been at it for about a month, and we've got about another month to go. And so I thank all of you for your support in my practice. It's been very meaningful. Thank you for the honor of serving as Shuso. And as always, thank you to my teacher for her wisdom and guidance in all things. I gave a talk a couple of weeks ago, told a story. I'm going to tell the same story today. And then talk a little bit about what we just chanted. So it's a short story, and it's one of two that we'll have in this talk. So story goes, oh goodness. Story goes like this. Joshu asked Nansen, "What is the way?" Nansen answered, "Your ordinary mind, that is the way." Nansen answered, "Your ordinary mind, that is the way." Joshu said, "Does it go in any particular direction?" Nansen replied, "The more you seek after it, the more it runs away." Nansen replied, "The more you seek after it, the more it runs away." Joshu asked, "Then how can you know it is the way?" And Nansen replied, "The way does not belong to knowing or not knowing. The way does not belong to knowing or not knowing. Knowing is illusion. Not knowing is lack of discrimination. When you get to this unperplexed way, it is like the vastness of space, an unfathomable void. So how can it be this or that, yes or no?" Upon this, Joshu came to a sudden realization. So the poem that we chanted this morning is attributed to one of our Zen ancestors named Tianqi Sengsan, who lived in China in the late 7th century. He is regarded as the third ancestor of Zen in China after it was brought from India. Its title can be translated in various ways. The version we chanted here is titled Verses on the Faith Mind. Verses on the Faith Mind. Other translations of the title include On Trust in the Heart, or Inscription on Trust in the Mind, Have Faith in Your Mind, and many others. It's an expression of a deep certainty that the mind of enlightenment is functioning in each of us right now and at all times. I love this poem for its boldness. It's almost audacious in how clearly stated it is and in what it asks of us, because right off the bat, it begins, "The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. If you wish to see the truth, then hold no opinions for or against anything. To set up what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. What an opening. What an opening. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. Hold no opinions for or against anything. Well, the Bodhisattva path, or Buddhism in general, asks a lot from us, or rather, we as Buddhists or those walking the Bodhisattva path, we ask a lot of ourselves. We ask ourselves every morning to bring all sentient beings to enlightenment, and we end an endless stream of delusion within ourselves. These are seemingly impossible vows, and there are guiding lights. These seemingly impossible vows are our guiding lights as we move through our lives, and they encourage us to see each moment clearly. But we still might wonder if we even want to take on the mission of having no preferences. Like, even if that's possible, we might think, to live a life that's free of opinions, or free from love or hate, like, doesn't it seem a little uninspiring? Here's another famous Zen story. Master KoUn lived in Japan in the late 17th and early 18th centuries. He was greatly respected and had many disciples. At one time in his life, he lived in a village hermitage close to a food shop run by a couple and their beautiful young daughter. One day, the parents discovered that their daughter was pregnant. Angry and distraught, they demanded to know the name of the father. At first, the girl would not confess, but after much harassment, she named KoUn. The furious parents confronted KoUn, berating him in front of all of his students, and he simply responded, "Is that so?" When the baby was born, the family gave it to KoUn. By this time, he had lost his reputation and his disciples, but KoUn was not disturbed. He took delight in caring for the infant child. He was able to obtain milk and other essentials from the villagers. But a year later, the young mother of the child was troubled by great remorse. She confessed the truth to her parents. The real father was not KoUn, but rather a young man who worked at the local fish market. The mortified parents went to KoUn apologizing, asking his forgiveness for the wrong they did him. They asked KoUn to return the child. Although he loved this child as his own, KoUn was willing to give him up without complaint. All he said was, "Is that so?" In this story, KoUn isn't worried about the conditions that caused this infant to come into his care, right? But he must have had a preference to see this brand new sentient being receive care and nurturing, and was willing to take that on himself. And it must have been a strong preference, because not only did it lead to the loss of his students and his reputation, do you know how hard it is to formally practice Zen while raising a child? I do. Really hard. Very hard. And so, I mean, this seems true of most things in our lives, right? The choices and the decisions we make, they seem like they have to be guided by some level of preference. From the poem, If you wish to move in the one way, do not dislike even the world of senses and ideas. Indeed, to accept them fully is identical with true enlightenment. I'm going to read that again. If you wish to move in the one way, do not dislike even the world of senses and ideas. Indeed, to accept them fully is identical with true enlightenment. So my sense is that we get ourselves in real trouble when we start believing in our preferences and our opinions, cherishing them. For example, the translation that we chanted wants us to hold no opinions for or against anything. And I think the word hold is important. Other translations say have no fixed thoughts, either for or against it. Don't maintain accord or opposition. So maybe the real trick when it comes to preferences and opinions is more subtle than the problems that come with like preferring one thing over another. Because it seems to me that in order to form like a really good, solid opinion or preference about something, it has to be experienced initially as being separate from you, as being separate from the self. And I think that's where we start to get ourselves in a little bit of trouble. To return to the root is to find the meaning, from the poem again. To return to the root is to find the meaning. But to pursue appearances is to miss the source. To return to the root is to find the meaning, but to pursue appearances is to miss the source. At the moment of inner enlightenment, there is a going beyond appearance and emptiness. The changes that appear to occur in the empty world we call real only because of our ignorance. But, of course, even to insist on a preference, to have no preferences, gets us in trouble. The poem says that when you try to stop activity to achieve passivity, your very effort fills you with activity. And I think the same is true here. You know, to prefer having no preferences just fills you with preferences. I think we need to understand the nature of our preferences, and we do this in Zazen, in meditation. In our Zazen, preferences are allowed to surface as they will, and their nature is able to be seen. And we can slowly start to understand them as not inherent to our person. They're not inherent to whatever it is that we are. Slowly through that process, their hold on us can weaken and we can learn to coexist with them. If you wish to move in the one way, the poem tells us, do not dislike even the world of senses and ideas. Another theme of verses on the faith mind is what to do about emptiness. This morning we chanted, as we do every Sunday, we chanted the Heart Sutra, in which we are told that all things are empty. All things are empty. And what they're empty of is a solid, separate, permanent kind of existence. Matter, for instance, matter is empty of a solid, permanent existence separate from other matter or separate from ourselves. Our sensations and our perceptions and our ideas, even our consciousness itself is empty of a solid, separate, permanent existence. Or that's what the Heart Sutra tells us. It tells us that our sensations, our perceptions, and our ideas, and even our consciousness. And this is said in our tradition to be the truth of the absolute, and it is opposed to the truth of the conventional, in which all things do exist in relation with each other. And when we first learn about these two truths, I think there's a natural temptation to kind of favor the truth of the absolute, to believe that it's a more true truth. But the Shin Ming says that that's a mistake. It wants us to directly experience the oneness of these two truths. Because the Heart Sutra also tells us that this vast emptiness truly does manifest itself to us humans as matter, as perceptions, as sensations, as ideas, as consciousness itself. That's how it comes to us. And of course, the trick is that non-duality doesn't allow for separation between the dual and the non-dual, right? Non-duality doesn't allow for a separation between dual and non-dual. Be serene, says the Shin Ming, in the oneness of things, and such erroneous views will disappear by themselves. To deny the reality of things is to miss their reality. To assert the emptiness of things is to miss their reality. At the moment of inner enlightenment, there is a going beyond appearance and emptiness. At the moment of inner enlightenment, there is a going beyond appearance and emptiness. Although all dualities come from this one, do not be attached even to this one. To come directly into harmony with reality, just simply say, when doubts arise, not to. In this not to, nothing is separate. Separation is not separate from non-separation. When such dualities cease to exist, oneness itself cannot exist. To this ultimate finality, no law or description applies. In this world of suchness, there is neither self nor other than self. Emptiness here, emptiness there. But the infinite universe stands always before your eyes. So too with being and non-being. This is a state, a truth that Sengsan tells us cannot be approached by thinking about it. Gain and loss, right and wrong, such thoughts must finally be abolished at once. No comparisons or analogies are possible. To this ultimate finality, no law or description applies. If the mind makes no discrimination, the myriad things are as they are. Don't waste time in doubts and arguments that have nothing to do with this. So I hope that this talk inspires you to practice further with this extraordinary text. But what I discovered in writing it is that I don't have much to add. And I think that's okay. I think that's appropriate because the Shin Ming itself tells us that The more you talk and think about it, the further away you stray from the truth. Stop talking and thinking, and there is nothing you will not be able to know. When no discriminating thoughts arise, the old mind ceases to exist. When thought objects vanish, the thinking subject vanishes, as when the mind vanishes, objects vanish. And finally, of course, in closing, both this talk and the poem, words. The way is beyond language, for in it there is no yesterday, no tomorrow, no today.